This episode is brought to you by Portland Distro. If you like underground music, movies, and more, go to portlanddistro.com for licensed merch, vinyl, CDs, and more. Plug in the discount code 10OFF, TENOFF, for a 10% discount at portlanddistro.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Everything Went Black. My good friend, Jesse Matthewson of the excellent band Ken Mode, joins us this week. They have a new record called NULL, which is just about ready to be released, and also a U.S. tour coming up in November. We talk about all of that stuff. Jesse and I go way back to the Escape Artist Records days. A few of you out there might remember that label. It was really cool back then. It was us, Ken Mode, ISIS, Burn It Down, a bunch of great bands playing Enemy. It was definitely an era, and Jesse and I made it out of that, and we're still rocking and rolling out there on the road. Before we get going, I want to thank everyone who has joined the Patreon. Much appreciated, all that support. If you want to support the podcast, you can also join Patreon for as little as $1 a month. You get access to all the bonus material. For $5 a month, you get access in advance to all the free episodes on the regular stream, plus the bonus material. And for $25 a month, you can become a sponsor yourself. If you have a business, a project, a band, anything that you want to promote, you can provide me with some copy to read, and I will give you an ad read on the episode once a month for as long as you want. And you get access to all the bonus material and early access to the free episodes. You know, one of the coolest things to come out over the last couple of years is this camaraderie that we've developed between Everything Went Black, Necromaniacs, Into the Necrosphere, Horrorwolf 666, and my friend Carl Hikara and his new podcast, Soul Knox. So a lot of really cool friendships have arisen, and I'm really, really proud to call these guys my friends. So with that said, please go ahead, after you listen to Everything Went Black and Necromaniacs, check out their shows. On Monday, we have Horrorwolf 666, hosted by Brandon Legion. On Tuesday, we have Into the Necrosphere, hosted by Jackie Smith. Wednesday, of course, is Everything Went Black. Necro Thursday is Necromaniacs. And Sunday, Soul Knox posts, hosted by my good friend Carl Hikara. And we've all collaborated together, and I give my full backing to these guys. So definitely help support them and help this whole thing that we've got going together grow and expand. It's great seeing you again. I was really excited that we had a chance to hang out a couple months ago in Winnipeg. And I think what I was telling my mutual friend Morgan, that I didn't even realize that I was in the same town that you lived in when I was there. I think I was sending photographs like on Instagrams, and Morgan was like, "You're in Jesse's backyard." Yeah. And I was like, how about that? I'm in fucking Winnipeg, the home of Jesse and Ken Mode.
Which isn't a place a lot of people usually are at from a touring perspective, let alone know someone there. So, yeah, that was funny. I definitely had you guys in the old calendar to come bug you. That I knew y'all were coming.
Well, I was glad. Nonetheless, I'm glad we were able to hang out, though. And
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever actually been to Winnipeg. That was the first for me.
Yeah, like we talked about, I think you had a couple failed attempts with some tours that ended up not panning out, spanning back quite a few years.
Yeah, there's been a lot of that kind of stuff. I have to say, Winnipeg is a nice town. I had a nice time there, and I really like that venue we played at.
Yeah, the Goodwill's a cool spot. It's kind of one of the only spots we play anymore when we play around there. It's just the right size, and the people that run it are all like people I came up with in the scene. So it's folks that you generally trust, and they do a good job.
To me, it has the feel of one of those places that you might play in Europe, because I think the attached coffee shop, restaurant kind of vibe, and yeah, it has like a very Euro vibe to it, at least for me. But then again, I'm from the United States, so what do we know about travel or anything?
Yeah. Or Europe or any of that halfway shit.
Yeah. So the last time we actually had you on the podcast, we did this in person when you guys were coming through New York, in Brooklyn specifically, at St. Vitus, and it was right at the beginning of you and your brother starting this accounting business that you are now, I guess, full swing involved in, right? And how is all that going?
It's going well. It's needless to say busy. Um, yeah, we handle a lot of like full scale business management for a lot of other artists that pull in considerably more money than we do. So trying to keep some of that stuff on the rails, particularly after like 2 years of a lot of bands not being on the road. It's like the first thing that people forget is always their organizational skills. So there's been a degree of trying to scramble to clean up messes as they're being quickly started as bands are getting out on the road, and just spending money wildly and not keeping receipts in the spots that they were supposed to be doing, and just generally overspending because everything is way more expensive, and it's just been very chaotic. And I mean, I know Shane also feels this. We're both constantly feeling behind, which, I mean, it is what it is. And to a certain degree, it's also because we just have more work to do, more clients. The longer we're around, we're just juggling more balls and dealing with all this album cycle stuff. I feel like I'm going crazy a little bit. I have 4 interviews on Monday. So now I have to work this weekend to get some of the shit I have to do done.
Wow.
Wah!
Well, just also, since that last conversation we had was several years ago, maybe for some of the new listeners, you can briefly run down what this business that you and Shane are running is. I know, I mentioned it was an accounting business, but there is a very useful angle to this business venture that you have. So maybe break that down a little bit to some people who might not be familiar.
Yeah, I guess when we first talked about it, we were more open to doing anything entertainment industry related, but realistically, what we wanted to be involved in was the music side of things, because that's what we know, that's what we love. And at this point, yeah, we don't even humor anything outside of that. And quite frankly, for the most part, we don't humor much outside of like touring bands that are more or less part of the community that we're a part of. We handle like the accounting, corporate tax. For a lot of the Canadian bands that we work with, I deal with trying to navigate the granting system that's up here and trying to bring in as much money as we possibly can for them, given the programs and when they open and close and what money's available. For some of the bands, we handle some of their like work permits, some international tax stuff. Like it's generally like the business management side. We do the thing for these bands, but because none of them are really, they don't really operate like a full-time corporate gig. So like we're kind of like part-time business managers for everyone. So we handle a lot of different services for a lot of different bands. I don't know how many I'm juggling right now. I think I've probably got 40 or 50 bands that I have to think about at any one time, whether or not they have things that need to be done. It's the larger this grows, the more painful it is. And frankly, we don't want to hire people because neither of us want to manage people either.
Oh
So
man, yeah. So it's just you and Shane right now doing everything.
yeah, although we have a couple bookkeepers that we have as consultants that we utilize. Actually, our new bandmate, Catherine Kerr, is one of said bookkeepers that she does some work for us with a few clients. So um, she's all up in our business now.
Speaking of which, you got you're a 4-piece now instead of a 3-piece, instead of a trio. One of the things that I was kind of marveling at was the almost Spinal Tap-esque number of Spinal Tap had a problem with drummers, but
Yeah.
you guys had a problem with bass players, with the exception of Scott Hamilton, who seems to have been, he's like the guy now.
Yeah. 8 years now. It was funny talking to Shane Melling. He was saying how he still feels like Scott's the new guy.
Yeah.
But it's like the new guy that's been around for 8 fucking years now.
It's like
Clearly
saying
not the new guy.
it's like saying Craig is the new bass player and the new guy and Sick of It All,
Yeah. Not so much. He's the guy. The guy. Yeah, for a minute there, I mean, when our first bassist initially quit, then came back, then we kicked him out back in 2004, 2005. We had some problems keeping people in the band. And I mean, at the time, we weren't even remotely close to being the kind of project we are now. Like we built our way up to trying to becoming like a proper full-time touring band, and in that caused another problem in that the guy who said he committed to working that idea with us bailed at the last minute, and that's why we ended up juggling a whole bunch of people in 2011 because we kind of got dealt a raw hand, and then tried to make do with what we had. And it wasn't until we got Scott that we got someone who we got along with on a fundamental level and that legitimately wanted to try to accomplish what we were trying to accomplish. Unfortunately, Scott kind of came in at the last 2 years of us trying to be a full-time band because Shane and I were burnt the fuck out. But I mean, Scott's the kind of guy that he's always down for anything we want to do. He wants to be out all the time. We don't. So he makes himself available for whatever we can and want to do. So in that respect, it's very, very nice to have someone that you can rely on to that degree.
Now, I've seen you on stage play bass, and over the course of the band's career, has there ever been a time when it's just been you and Shane making the records?
Not yet. No, we always end up, I mean, this latest record is actually the closest that's ever really come to, but like Scott clearly recorded it. A lot of these songs I wrote on my own in isolation during the pandemic. We created like a 2-album arc that we recorded all last fall, and half the material I wrote on my own and half the material we wrote as a band. So that's probably the closest we've come, but like Scott played all these songs on the record.
Now, have you become an old hand at using all this new technical resources that people have at their disposal for making demos? Like, have you become like an expert at Pro Tools and Easy Drummer and all the various amp modelers? Like, have you gotten into that stuff?
I have, but not like I'm far from an expert. I'm still actually just using Reaper. I'm going with the freeware. I taught myself how to do like MIDI programming, so that's been entertaining. And actually, that's the one thing I'm thankful for the pandemic, and the only thing is that it allotted me the time to put into learning how to do that stuff. I feel bad that I don't have enough time to really work on music right now because I'm probably forgetting how to use a lot of these tools. But and as a result, my mental health has been declining because I think I need to be writing songs to scratch certain itches up in there. But yeah, it was. I mean, I enjoyed learning how to use all that stuff, and I'm into the guitar emulators and the room sound, drum sound things using. We've got an electronic kit that we plug into a MIDI adapter that, in terms of being able to demo stuff and me tweaking it and editing the shit out of all these songs, it was very, very cool to get to do all that stuff. And I am very thankful that I learned how to do it and that it's something that we can continue using going forward. Because, yeah, like once you get clipping, you really get clipping. Like I wrote one of the songs that we haven't debuted yet off this record. I wrote it in like a couple hours, wrote all the parts myself, played all the parts myself, and just taught it to Shane. And it's one of the most ripping songs on the album.
Wait, so you actually played like on a you did the MIDI drum part like on your with like a MIDI drum kit?
Yeah. I did it on we have an electronic kit that's in my little space, kind of a shitty one that I mean, I used to drum before we started Ken Mode, not well.
I didn't know that.
But I can drum. Shane, like with all the beats that I created for these records, like I wrote them and then Shane totally dunked on me because like he's an actual drummer.
Right.
But he even found the process kind of fun because I'd write drum parts that he would never naturally think to go to that place. So he found them interesting and then he'd add a little bit of his own flair to it to make it his own. So we ended up with some really cool shit in the end of it. Yeah, I hope I can make time to do that thing again soon. Hopefully after like we finish the touring this fall, I can do a little bit of writing because fuck, man, I don't like this feeling. It's been a year since I've written a song. I don't feel good.
How close in age are you and Shane? Because I got to be honest, you guys look exactly the same as the day I met you guys, like like 60 years ago or however long ago that was.
We're 2 years apart to the day. He's born on the same day as me, only 2 years later.
Yeah, okay, that's what I figured. Because I look at you and Shane, and I'm like, Shane could be like 20, or he could be like 40. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I can't never get a beat on how old that dude is.
And I know I constantly trip people out at my gym when I tell them, yeah, I'm turning 41 soon.
Oh, I know that feeling, man.
Yeah. Especially when so many of those kids that start training just look like shit. They'll be like 25 and they look like they're 43.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, kids have a different sort of idea about athleticism these days, you know. But yeah, it's funny. Like during the pandemic, the same thing happened with me. I always knew how to use a lot of that stuff, but being locked away and then you're like working on stuff, and then it's just like, I think I'm gonna call it quits for tonight. It's like 8:00, and then I stare into the shadows in my apartment, and I'm just like, well, if I don't do this, I don't have anything else to do. So let me put in another couple hours and then fall asleep on the couch or something,
And then it's 1:30 in the morning. You're still editing drum things. It's just like, God damn it, what the fuck have I done? There was a lot of that for me. Just like, that doesn't quite line up. All right, let's tweak that.
Well, with the new addition of Catherine in the band, now she's a full-time member now, right? That's like straight up. Is she involved in the writing process as well?
Not as much.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of, I mean, shy of her saxophone parts, which she very much helped write with some direction from us, because like Scott and I don't know how to fucking play saxophone, especially when you start getting into those more chaotic jazzy style solos. Like, yeah, I'm gonna tell you how to play that. Yeah, get fucking real. But all the synth and piano elements that she's going to be playing live, I wrote a good deal of those, and on some of the next records, Scott wrote some of the piano ideas. So it's her allowing our vision to see fruition, which is it's going to be cool. And who knows how the hell the writing for the next batch of material will go. Maybe she will be considerably more involved in that respect, because I know she's going to end up learning how to use the synthesizers that I own better than me, because she's the one taking them home right now.
Yeah, I'm real excited about hearing the rest of the record. Like, I've only heard the stuff that's available right now, and
no, I'll send you a link.
Oh, thank you. I also I don't like to push that stuff with people. You know what I mean? Like,
I get it. Yeah.
I'm like, well, you will or you won't, and it's up to you.
And either way, I'm going to hear it at some point, right?
Yeah, exactly. How did Catherine join the fold of the band? Like, how did you guys find? I mean, you said she works with you guys. Was she just working with the firm, and then you're like, oh, by the way, we need a multi-instrumentalist to join the band, and you drafted her? So how did that happen?
That was kind of a funny roundabout way. She actually got in touch with Shane and I when we were starting doing what we were doing with MKM Management. she wanted to intern with us because she wanted to get into doing business services for musicians too. And at the time, like, we were green enough that we didn't have enough work to bring in an intern. Like, we thought the concept of that was ridiculous. But we did give her some advice to get some accounting courses under her belt to kind of give her a better understanding of like technical financial accounting, as opposed to like, because bookkeepers generally don't have financial accounting training. The good ones do, but a lot of them simply don't. And we kind of advised her to get some of that training under her belt so she would be able to better understand this world. She took that advice to heart, ended up doing that. But it's funny because like maybe a month or two after meeting her, I put a shout out on Facebook looking for a saxophonist for new Ken Mode material. And she said, guys, I know we just met, but I actually have a degree from Brandon University in music on the saxophone. It's
Wow.
like, what the fuck? Okay, well, let's jam. Let's see what this is like. So she came down. We ripped some stuff up. She ended up playing on our Loved record, and she let it be known that she'd be interested in doing things with us going forward. And if that became a touring position, that she'd be down. So as I started exploring different avenues with different instruments, I kind of ran the ideas by her, and she actually plays piano and synthesizer and guitar, and it just ended up being like a very bizarre, perfect storm to meet a new friend. And
That's
now
awesome.
she's playing way too many parts in this band. Yeah, her. It's been. I feel for her because, like, in trying to construct the sets that we're going to be doing, her job is probably harder than any of ours because she's jumping around from instrument to instrument and changing patches, and it's a lot to take in all at once. Meanwhile, like, some of these songs are songs we've been playing for 12, 13 years.
Well,
It's old hat to me. Shane and I can do some of this stuff in our sleep because we've played them like 700 times live.
well, that was actually something I was going to lead into. Is like with I mean, obviously I don't know what the set list is for the new tour rather, but so with the new tour coming up, the new fourth member, and the old songs, are they changing? And is she, obviously it seems like she's been adding her own, layer to those old songs, right?
Yeah, we made a point of trying to construct synthesizer and saxophone, and I think it's really just synth and sax that we're adding to those old songs. Which, I mean, it works. It took a bunch of time to like concentrate and create supporting parts. In some instances, they're more textural, in others, they're supporting like the bass lines. But it's going to make us like a very dense band. I mean, we were dense for a three-piece to begin with, but I think this stuff is going to be like oppressive now.
That's
It's going to
awesome.
be fun. It's going to be fun to play some of this live.
That's great, man. And I don't know why this popped into my head, but last summer, my drummer is a fan of Hall & Oates, and apparently he goes to see Hall & Oates whenever they play at the PNC Arts Center down here in New Jersey. And we all went to the show, and Hall & Oates was performing their old material with all these additional musicians on stage. So it was like a completely different experience. So I guess qualitatively, not so much in a quantitative sense, I'm expecting when I see you guys that these old songs that I've seen you guys play are going to be like a brand new experience. So that's
I
really
hope
cool.
so.
Yeah.
I hope so. Or at the very least, they're just going to be just that little bit more heavier now.
When does that tour kicks off? What, in November in the north, like down here?
Yeah, in the Northeast, we make it up there in November. The first dates are in the Midwest. October 20th, we're playing St. Paul, so that'll be our first stateside show. And then, yeah, we're doing Philly on the 4th, Brooklyn on the 5th, Cambridge on the 6th. Then we're dipping up into Quebec, doing Montreal, Toronto, then kind of clipping back down through the Midwest so we can make our way home. But it'll be a tightly packed 3-week run, and hopefully we don't lose our minds and have too much work coming back home in our inboxes. That's always the question mark, right? Of balancing the two lives, and that it becomes more and more stressful.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. You know, it's I remember like coming back from tour, I didn't even know how to turn my computer back on. I was like I was like, what's my password? Like,
yeah. Shit. Shit.
I'm going to be around for those dates in November. Our
Cool.
plans got pushed into the spring, so
Shit.
yeah. You know what? I got bummed for a minute, but then there's some other underlying things that actually made that schedule change more actually in our benefit. So that's good.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
But yeah, so I'll be around for, you know, actually, you know what, man? If you guys want to stay up here in Jersey after Philly, the door's open.
Cool. Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I live between Philly and Brooklyn now, out in New Jersey. So, you know.
Sick. Yeah, you were mentioning that to me.
Yeah. So I might actually truck down to Philly too, just because it's easier. It's less of a pain in the ass to drive down to Philly, even though it's further away than to drive into Brooklyn. So.
Yeah, but I get it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I think that Philly show we're doing at Silk City, which I think is a smaller venue, and we're doing that. You know that band, The Drowned God?
No, that sounds cool though. It's like some kind of Lovecraftian like title. That's actually
they're pretty sick. They just got added to that bill, so it'll be a good one. And actually, we kind of went out of our way to try and find some cool bands in almost every city. So it's going to be a really fun run for us. Like Scott and I have been joking that we're going to end up going broke because we're going to be buying all the regional supports merch.
Yeah, the Silk City place has been having shows, like having like more, like that place was known more as like a DJ spot. I think, you know, my impression was that's what it was, and now they've been having more like metal, like heavier kind of shows.
That's cool.
Yeah, we played there back in the spring with when we did that East Coast run with Cloak. So
okay.
That was pretty. Actually, it was a good show.
Cool.
Yeah. So the new record, what's the release date? Let's talk about the new record now. So like, what's the release date? You know, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, it's coming out September 23rd on Artifact Records. So new label, new everything. Out with the old, in with the new. Is that it? Something like that, even though we've been in this band for 23 years.
Sure. 23 years. Wow.
23
I guess
fucking years.
God damn it, dude. The fucking years. Holy shit.
You know.
Wow.
Hell, you've even been doing tombs for how long's that been?
I know, dude. It's been like almost 15 years, I think, which is crazy, right? Because to me, it feels like we just started yesterday.
Yeah, this is Hill's new band still.
Yeah, that's I think of it as, let's see, it's 2008 is when I started this thing. It's a 12. Yeah, it's like 14 years, man.
14 years, fuck.
It's crazy.
Yeah, we started this shit show in 99.
Like even 99 feels like it was only 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Very
fucking far.
the world was so different back then.
Oh, big time. Yeah, it's still, well, I mean, like we were talking about the last time we met up, like when touring, when you're still using maps and shit like that. There weren't cell phones. We're using pay phones to call home. Definitely a different era. I mean, a lot of things are easier now, and obviously a lot of things are so much harder to cut through the noise, but having GPS fucking rules.
I like having GPS, except that it makes me, in some ways, it makes me feel like my problem solving skills might be declining because of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you know, it definitely comes in handy, especially when you're traveling as much as, you know, we do and what you guys do and that kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah, it saves on wanting to kill everyone around you when you're missing things that you're supposed to be finding. Um, but I mean, then there's obviously all the other problems that the smartphones have caused in our society, and everyone's ADHD and anxiety. And yeah, we're gonna attempt to disconnect a little bit more on this next tour, and just I want to live more in the moment and converse with the people specifically in every city and the bands we're playing with, and just kind of embrace what I've missed about the community, particularly from being through these pandemic years. Like, I don't know, I'd very much come to appreciate the communities that I was a part of, and then the pandemic made the martial arts community go absolutely fucking insane, and now I feel no kinship with that whatsoever anymore. So I'm really relying on the music community to bring me back to reality a little bit.
So, in what way has the martial arts community, like, what was it like, you know, like anti-vaxxers or deniers? Like,
Yeah,
what was the
it,
deal with that?
it was the whole shebang. Like, there was the whole anti-mask denying, like complete COVID denial shit in the first stages that like split the community. And then there was the anti-vax shit that again split the people. Like, basically the whole scene that I was a part of, I train with almost none of the same people that I used to, which really, I mean, it fucking sucks when you actually started to appreciate the scene and the people that were around you, and getting to train at a certain level and having fun doing it, and then to have it just completely fall apart. Like, I'm very thankful that the music community is filled with more like-minded people than that one was for me. And I mean, like, with martial arts, I was always like surface level at best when you are talking to people. Like, you're bonding over doing a thing as
Yeah.
opposed to maybe having like core values in common. And I find with the music community, I more so have like core values in common with people, because this weird sub niche that we're a part of seems to always attract very similar weirdos from all over the world. We're always a little bit smarter. Not to be too pretentious about it, but you know,
No, you're right. I agree with you, man. I think when you get into these like more obscure forms of music, people have more of a kind of discerning, ideology about certain things, and you got to
very much so.
find things, and you're not just taking like what's being fed to you in a certain way. And I agree with that statement completely.
And you definitely see a concurrent theme of people who ask probably too many questions to get them into trouble, and not in a fucking stupid way. Yeah, it was just a very disappointing time, and I mean, I'm still kind of reconciling it and dealing with my own anger toward that disillusion of community. So I think I need being able to be back on tour fairly badly from that perspective, in a yearning for community sense. So I'm even just with the organization of trying to put this tour together. It's been nice getting to be in touch with people who weren't really around the last time I had to get down and dirty with this sort of stuff. And I mean, that's no secret that, like, with music, a lot of the time there's obviously the lifers like us, but a lot of the time it's a very youth driven community, and people cycle in and out like every 3 to 5 years. And it's been three since we've toured. So I'm expecting to meet a whole bunch of new people that hopefully have that passion and drive like you've never seen before, because I'd imagine there's a lot of young pissed off people that this stuff really resounds with, and I'd like to meet them.
Have you guys played any shows at all? Like, I know that.
Zero.
So, oh wow,
None.
not even
Yeah,
just like a couple warm up like local shows or anything like that.
we're gonna do a local show and three others in Western Canada in September, but it'll be when our record comes out. We're actually bringing Vile Creature from Hamilton out for that, and Mares of Thrace from Calgary. So it's like a proper little like long weekend mini tour with those two. And
Now,
I hope those shows go really well, because it'll be a real hit to the ego if they don't.
Now, when you say Western Canada, there's a different sense of distances in Canada than how
Yeah.
far west are you going?
We're only going to go to Alberta, which is like a 15-hour drive away.
I
Yeah,
got to be very intimate with those drives on the last run, so I'm
yeah.
aware. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, they can be real good. We're doing. We figured we'd. The only thing I feel bad about is that Edmonton is on a Monday, which aren't always the best times for shows. But like, I mean, fuck it. As long as the show's early enough, Monday doesn't matter. As long as you're in bed, normal-ish time, who gives a fuck, right?
Well, these days I'll go out on any day of the week, honestly. I mean, I was so
Yeah,
happy to be able to do things again that if something was on a Monday, I would still go out and do it, I mean, that's just
and
me, though.
there has been like a legitimate shift in the way shows are being presented because I think we have been faced with the fact that there's so many forms of entertainment for young people now that like live shows are competing with everything. So I think they're trying to cater a little bit more to an older demographic too, because that was always the thing that was keeping people as they got older and had families and jobs and blah blah blah. If you're having shows that are ending at fucking 2 on a Tuesday, I'm not going out. I can't do that. Like if I stay, and I'm going to have to actually adjust my internal clock because right now, if I have to stay up till 3 in the morning, I'm going to be destroyed for like 3 days. So I'm going to need to do some training there. But the nice thing is that you have seen that shift where shows are all genuinely starting earlier. Like I've seen a lot of the shows on this run are generally like doors are at 7, first band at 7:30.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Like on the tour we just finished up, that was the same deal. I think everything was pretty much done by like 11:30, and we were packed up and out by midnight.
Which is so fucking awesome.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Because then you can get like half your drive done that night and you've got very little to deal with the next day. And then when there's an early load in, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, that's the downside is that the load-ins are like a lot earlier in the
Yeah.
afternoon. Yeah, but whatever. You adjust, it's all good.
Yeah. It's as a whole a better timeline than it was before. Like when you're getting out of venues at 2 or 3 in the morning, like fuck that noise, man.
Yeah. No, absolutely, man. So that's exciting though. So I'm excited that you guys are coming down here. Now, some of the stuff I've been reading about with the new record is that the lyric writing and the content of the songs has to do a lot with struggling through the last couple of years. So
Yeah,
you
very
want
much.
to expand on some of that?
It's funny the more mental health becomes something that people talk about. Like even like 10 years ago, people didn't openly communicate the way we do about it now. Um, I know throughout my early adult life, coming to grips with the fact that I have clinical depression issues, it was kind of viewed as an outlier. Like my family, I was the only one who had some sort of psychological problem, even though we've subsequently found that almost my entire family is struggling with the same shit. It's just that I was the only one that was getting very like when you can't get out of bed, it's a fucking problem, right?
No, totally.
Um, and I think it's very obviously very prevalent in the creative realms. Like there's generally something that's driving said creativity, and there's something a little tweaked in a lot of us, and so it almost feels cliche focusing on that aspect of the lyric content, but that was very much my struggle through the pandemic because I've always utilized coping mechanisms that directly come from martial arts and music. And when you can't do either of those, how do you keep depression at bay? And I couldn't. So it was a shitty time. And I mean, bad things are happening all around the world. Everyone's trapped indoors. People are getting sick and dying. Healthcare systems are crumbling. Uh, I also I feel like a lot of the work I've put into like chilling myself the fuck out came undone in the last 2 years. Like I'm I didn't used to be this angry. I was in my 20s, and I was very thankful that I'd come to a better place. And I think I'm kind of a little bit back to square one, which I'm not super stoked about. And I got to figure out a way, whether I have to do just an ungodly amount of mushrooms or something to rewire things. I don't know. But yeah, I'm a lot more pissed off again, and it's not cool.
Well,
Um, that's a lot of the content that these songs are dealing with.
yeah, sometimes the tour, just being away and getting out on the road would be a big help too. I mean, once again, I like to commend you for being able to speak about mental health and things like that, because that is an aspect that seems to be for generations has been neglected, and then has like probably resulted in the cliched strong silent type
Yeah,
archetype, which is definitely not the way to go through life, and it just probably resulted in just multitudes of unhappy people that are making more unhappy people. So that's cool that you at least have been able to identify that stuff and take measures to rectify it.
it is a. It's funny talking about it in the context of aggressive music too, because obviously a lot of us try to work a lot of this shit out through our music and through our lyrics, um, and don't necessarily talk about it. And as much as it's being talked about more in other styles of music, you're right, especially when things are very male driven, which I know extreme music has been adapting. That is one thing that, as a side note, I've noted with the newer generation of bands you're seeing come out that are legitimately doing like sick shit. There's a lot of like women, non-binary people, trans people, like they are, and I mean for good reason. They're fucking pissed, and they don't feel as alienated to feel a barrier from entry to this type of music. So you're seeing some genuinely badass and pissed off ideas coming out from different perspectives, which is fucking awesome. But I do think from the traditionally aggressive male side of things, we do need to talk more because it's very right that the strong silent type, like you just end up seeing dudes in bands kill
Yeah,
themselves.
exactly.
Well, what was wrong? And then it's like, reach out to your friends, bros. You got to take care of each other. It's like the platitudes that everyone does when another one of your friends kills themselves. It's like that's I get and I've talked about this on another panel before where I get that everyone with the like reach out to your friends thing, but like or reach out for help, but like when people are going through the thick of it, their mind isn't there. When I'm in the deepest pits of depression, like I don't want to fucking reach out to my friends. I don't want to look for help. That's not how that shit works. I don't really know what the solution is there, shy of people need to do more honest introspection and attempt preventative measures more. Because I know like I mentioned, like that's why I fucking do martial arts. That's why I need music. I know I have a problem and I'm trying to stop it from being a problem. Yeah, I mean, and access to like mental health resources is a big one. That I mean, that's a societal problem right now that I don't think is going to get fixed anytime soon. Because there legitimately needs to be more like legit psychotherapy offered to all reaches of society. That I don't know how the hell they're going to cover the cost of that. So that ends up becoming a whole economic problem that I don't think we're even remotely prepared to discuss here.
Actually, what's really interesting is like one of the most unlikely people who's very candid about mental health is Harley Flanagan. Like I've interviewed him in the past, and I think like maybe 1/3 of our conversation had to do with mental health. And I think a guy like him, especially in the scene that he operates in,
Yeah.
is like that's like hats off to that dude. You know what I mean? Because like people who are like into that style of shit are generally not the most like forward thinking people, in my opinion. And that's just my opinion. I'm sure people
Yeah,
out there
yeah.
are gonna,
Well, it's a very macho centered area of the extreme music spectrum. Um, and I mean, knowing his history with both violence, his music, and martial arts, yeah, no shit, the guy has some some baggage there, and the fact that he is self-aware enough that that's a topic of discussion is hats off to him on that, because I mean that's needing to recognize and put in a lot of work on yourself, knowing that what the fuck is making me this angry.
No, absolutely, man. So I just wanted, you touched on the change up at the gym. So like, were things like really shut down during like, were things really just dead as far as anything being open, or were there like these like renegade spots that opened up in secret? And how are things now as far as training goes?
Things definitely shut down, and there also were definitely renegade spots that stayed open. My gym followed the rules because, I mean, he wanted to get the government subsidies that he could for being a business, and he has a big space with a lot of equipment, so he didn't want to fuck up and have his business get fucked because of it.
Right.
And I think that's part of what caused such a splintering with everything, because other people pieced out without even saying a word and then started their own thing and then poached clients. So
man, yeah,
it was just kind of an ugly scene. And yeah, I mean, we went through probably 9 months of lockdowns from March 2020 through May of 2021. Which, I mean, gyms, especially a martial arts gym, is one of the first to get axed, right? So we've been open now, what, over a year without any interruption now. But yeah, it's a very different climate, which is just kind of a bummer. There are, like, obviously you get an influx of newer students and new people that are interested in it, but like when you lose all the old school guys, like you don't have any talent to work with.
Yeah,
You're
training
teaching people the whole time,
yeah.
which, I mean, I'm a guy training in his 40s now, man. I need some people to play around with instead of young, strong guys that are trying to fucking kill me.
Did you change spots, or are you still at the same gym and other people left? So are you, I guess I'm trying to say, okay, so you stayed
I'm
where
still,
you're at.
yeah, I stay at the same spot. I'm, and I mean, this is obviously a very, it's a thing in martial arts, the loyalty aspect where, I mean, when you stick around with places, you become part of a club. And when people turn their backs on the people that they trusted, there's a lot of hard feelings. And I was one of the people who stuck around. So I'm one of the good guys, right?
Oh,
Or
dude.
something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you guys want to, anyone out there who knows like the drama within bands, like there's even more, like it's the same style of drama, like whenever you decide to change gyms, or one guy, like two partners split or something, there's like, one dude's like the MMA guy, then the Muay Thai guy starts his own spot, or, there's always like crazy shit that goes on like that,
Yeah, we had our jiu-jitsu guy leave because he was an anti-masker, and that was just ugly.
I feel like a lot of the guys in the jiu-jitsu scene are like these kind of like anti-vax, like they seem to be very vocal about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, that was another painful thing for me, because during the periods where the gyms did open up, particularly in like 2020 and 2021, where that's all these fucking knuckleheads wanted to talk about too. Like I don't want to talk politics with your average Joe on the street, and I don't want to talk politics with your average Joe at a gym. I'll talk politics with my close friends,
yeah, totally.
But I don't want to hear about your thoughts on this needle-brained conspiracy theory about our government's leaked emails about how they're trying to take control of the populace. And you've seen the emails while I'm trying to do fucking bag work. Like, please shut the fuck up and leave me alone. You 23-year-old fucking idiot.
Oh, yeah,
like, I want to hear that sort of shit from children. Jesus Christ.
That's awesome. No, I agree, man. I totally agree. It's definitely been a pretty wild ride over the last couple of years.
And you being an American, I can only fucking imagine.
Oh, dude. Yeah, dude. Things are getting crazy down here.
No offense to our American friends and fans, but y'all take crazy to a new level.
Yeah, man. We're all like John Wayne down here. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's I feel like I'm watching a movie every day. You know what I mean? and one
Yeah.
that doesn't have a happy ending, you know.
There are no who has an album No More Happy Endings?
Oh, wait, No More Dreams of Happy Endings is Damnation AD.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, then there's also the classic Lifetime of Gray Skies, man.
Well, yeah, it's the classic. I don't know about classic, but you know,
I still fucking love that record and that album title. It's a classic.
I have to say that is the one that I think that's our best record, really. You know what I mean? That's the one record that like I can listen to and not be like wincing every now and then. And a lot of it is just because like that as the 3-piece version of that band with Joel on drums really was like, you know, that I think we were onto something during that brief period for sure.
Yeah, for me, it always reminded me of kind of the frantic energy of Gluey Porch Treatments by the Melvins, which I mean, is one of my favorite records. So I don't know why, but there was just a certain vibe about you guys on that record that's what it conjured up in my head. That burly franticness that is just fucking cool.
You know, Melvins, I can't remember what a record by them that I've liked as far as like the last like 20 years, man. I just dropped off of being a fan of that band since like the late 90s maybe.
I mean I get it. They lost me somewhere in the 2000s. I think it's fine, but it's like the 80s and 90s ones for me are like some of my favorite records by any one period. So
absolutely.
But I also kind of feel the same way about Neurosis. After Times of Grace, it's funny because like you see a band like that live, and even though I don't necessarily care for the albums, like the shit crushes live. You see them playing these newer songs that you don't give a shit about, but like it's so much better than all the bands that have aped them over the years that it's just, why does anyone even bother?
Well, with Neurosis, it's like those guys. It's like there's always like a copy of a copy of a copy, and things get more and more distorted. And the bands that are copying Neurosis are not being nourished by the source. You know, like Neurosis were taking all these disparate sort of influences, and they crafted that into what they became. You know, I mean, they were listening to, you know, Swans, like Neubauten, like stuff like that, you know, punk rock music, like, you know, Discharge and Crass, you know, and early industrial, like, and that all got put together, and that's what created that band. So there's like this intensity and this like vibe that they created that they're expressing. And, you know, then you got bands like, you know, like Tombs that are pale, very pallid sort of comparisons to what Neurosis does, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about in the context of newer bands and them not being nourished on the same nutrition that we all kind of grew up eating.
Yeah.
Like I've always kind of taken offense whenever people compare us to contemporary bands that cut our teeth with. I literally just saw something today where someone was comparing the new single we did. Someone's been consuming some Daughters. It's like,
oh God,
motherfucker. Do you know anything about us? Did you get into this shit in 2018? Daughters? Please.
Yeah, that's, you know, I mean, music journalists are a fucking dime a dozen, man. You know what I mean? It's like everyone with like a laptop can write about music, and not most people can't make music, you know?
No.
And I've always felt that way about it. You know, there's definitely some guys out there who have real insights into music and aren't just, you know, failed musicians who can't really, you know, put it together to do their own thing. So they have this vitriol that they have for bands that are actually trying to do something, you know?
And I mean, everyone has a hot take nowadays anyway.
Which is a problem, I think, man. It's like, I mean, especially with things that are subjective, like music. It's like, you know, I don't like that shade of blue or something. You know, it doesn't make any fucking sense because it's such a subjective thing. Like anything creative, you know, writing or films. Well, that's not true. There's bad films out there for sure, and there's bad bands too. But
Yeah.
who am I to tell you not to like that? You know,
Yeah.
it's like you can go out and like whatever you want to like. You know, you could be into bands that I despise and I think have no talent at all, but that's a completely your filter, because there's plenty of things that I like that no one cares about, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, it's fine. Other people are free to be tasteless hacks.
This always brings to mind a weightlifting story from high school where there was this dude, this guy Eric, that really, really strong kid, and we were like 17. And there was this guy Fred who worked at the gym, who was also a strong guy, but like in a smaller weight class, you know?
Mhm.
And I remember Eric was able to get like a really good squat, like one of his personal best, and you know, and he's like, oh, you know, Fred, I put up 405, man, you know. It's like, that's awesome. And Fred's like, yeah, that's good for you. So I've applied that mentality to everything else in my life, where it's like, oh, you like, band X. Oh, that's good for you, but not for me.
Yeah. It doesn't do the thing for me. That's fine. Yeah, I mean, me having a background that studying marketing and consumer behavior in school 100 years ago, it's all just target demos, right? Not that we necessarily are thinking with that in mind when we're creating our own art in the first place, but like that is the root of it all, where it's like you can like that, it's fine. I'm just not the target demo, and it doesn't matter. I don't have to be. And you can like a band with the first record and then slowly become not the target demo anymore, and that's also, it's fine. It is what it is. But a lot of people really take offense when like they're not being catered to anymore, which I mean speaks to a certain degree of entitlement that everyone has in society now, because we are the center of our own universes and everyone should be paying attention to us. But it's just not the way the world works, unfortunately.
Yeah, they don't realize that we're just like these specks of nothing in a vast void floating through space, you know?
Yeah. Just feel lucky that you exist and that you like anything at all ever.
Exactly. You know. So yeah, dude, it was great talking to you, and I'm looking forward to the full record being available. And is there a pre-order or anything like that we should be talking about that we need to get out there?
Oh, there definitely is.
Yeah, let's talk about all that stuff now.
There's a pre-order on our Bandcamp. If you go to ken-mode.com, there's pre-orders on that. They're all over the place. If you're listening from Europe, we got our Death Wish EU store that's being run by Throat Ruiner Records over there. We got a pre-order through that. All kinds of shit. You can buy to your heart's content for the Ken Mode camp here.
They have like T-shirts and all that sort of stuff too.
Oh, so many T-shirts. So many T-shirts. We actually just got a new run of, we got the cover of Loved. We did a T-shirt for that back in March that we just repressed. And our bud Caroline Harrison did an adaptation of Randy Ortiz's cover art for the new record that we just got copies of that looks fucking sick. So I'm stoked to get on the road and shell all this stuff out.
Hell yeah. So that's once again, what's the release date for the record, the proper release date?
September 23rd. Yeah.
And do you guys have your dates posted for the tour yet?
We do. They're all over the place. They're on kenmode.com. If you go to any of our socials, we've got links to the old Linktree thing that has anything you'd ever want to know about us. And we're but a message or an email away from complete understanding of anything going on with us, because I generally respond to everything.
Well, I'm really looking forward to checking you guys out, and I'll probably see you guys in multiple times. So that's
hell yeah,
that's good, you know. And like I said, the door's open if you guys need anywhere to crash on that. I have a comfortable, clean lodging here, so
greatly appreciated.
Hell yeah, man. So
we'll be in touch, and I'm looking forward to hang.
Yeah, totally.
Hang.
Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll talk to you next week.